welcome back to the Mashup 233. As usual, you can hit us up on our socials. Like I said today, the Mashup 233 on all platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. We have with us Tsie, who's going to start our series on Millennial Dreamers. Welcome to the Mashup 233.
Thank you.
Awesome. I told him I heard about you in 2021, but apparently most people I talk to say you've been doing music way longer than that. Yes.
Yeah.
But I think I fell in love with your music from that time. When did this whole thing start for you, music and that journey? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I grew up. It sounds cliche, but I grew up like in a very musical family. My parents both did music in some way, shape, or form. I mean, there's always like church and Sunday and stuff like that. But my dad also owned a music shop, much like a guitar center or something like that in Manprobi, long time ago. So we had a lot of like old stock instruments and audio gear, stuff I even use today. And then my dad built a studio in the late 90s. And so I was a studio rat, essentially. I was just there all the time. I was seeing the likes of, like Danny Growl and, all the cool guys, Joe Metal and all those guys came through. And so being exposed to, that, and, my dad was a big Bob Marley fan and had a lot of jazz records and reggae records and stuff like that. I listened to all kinds of music and I saw how music was made, and it fascinated me for a very long time. And when I was a kid, I was a drummer. I used to play at church. And
it always starts there, doesn't it?
It always starts there. It's like, most people's first experience of music in the performance context is like church. And so that's how it's been. I mean, it's difficult to separate which was, the moment where I realized I wanted to make music for myself. But the definitive point that I remember clearly is when I went to film school, and I needed music for my film.
Okay.
And nobody wanted to give me music, and there was this whole licensing issue and blah blah blah. And it struck me, it's like, guy, you've been around people making music, you know how to use Fruity Loops and all these weird things. Why don't you just make the music yourself? And that was it. And I haven't looked back since.
Awesome. So what's your relationship with music like? And so many musicians have different descriptions of their relationship with the music. What's yours?
It's hard to explain. Music is that one friend who is always drunk and sitting at the back, and comes up with this really cool line, and then everyone laughs, and then it goes back into the darkness. That's how it is. I try not to make music the main thing, because what happens is with like with everything else, it becomes very formal, it becomes very necessary, it becomes very, and then it's no longer fun. It's like adulting, like everything we used to do while we were kids, now you do them, and it's like, it's like but yeah, I've gone in and out of that position. I started music as just, let me make music for my films. I started performing the music, and then all of a sudden I was going to studios, I was writing for other artists, I was doing all this kind of stuff. And at a very weird point in my life, that was all I was doing, and then it became a chore. It's like, okay, you need to make this number of songs. You have to, in order to like make money and stuff like that. And it was very terrible. And it took me having to go back to film and leaning on that, and now teaching film, to be able to be comfortable enough to do music for fun. And I think that's what has struck the balance, and that's what's keeping music still interesting for me.
Okay, so you're not want to look at it as a business, right? You still want to keep it as a hobby, of some sort?
I don't like tags.
Okay,
I don't like
that's fair.
tags. I do make money from my music. I mean,
Right.
I don't play free gigs.
Okay.
And my music has been used in other people's films. I
Okay.
write music for other people. I'm collecting royalties and stuff like that on it.
I feel
So
you.
there's still a financial aspect to
Okay.
it.
Okay.
I think the important thing for me is that I don't have to make music
Yeah.
to survive.
I agree. Okay, I see your point.
And if it's not primal, yeah, it's fun.
Okay. Okay. So I realized that a lot of your music or your writing has to do with things about life, but about love as well. How important is that to your storytelling, your music?
I think love is one of the most beautiful and most confusing things.
Absolutely.
And I think it's fascinating that you can find aspects of it, if not love itself, in everything. And so I really just play with all the different scenarios, all the different instances that I've crossed paths with love. And so some of my songs may sound like I'm talking about a person, but sometimes I'm talking about something else. Like for instance, my song Fire is actually about inspiration.
Okay.
And my love-hate relationship with inspiration. But immediately you personify inspiration, it becomes a person, and then now that love is now sort of interpreted as romantic love. And I mean, I don't really care how it's interpreted. But yeah, I think there's no way you can separate love from anything, and so I just lean into it and I write in that direction. Yeah.
So when you're writing music, what influences most of the time? Like, what influences? Where do you go? Where's your safe place? How do you normally write? Because your writing is really good. To be honest, like,
If you say so.
your writing is pretty good. Yeah, it's quite dope.
Yeah.
So what informs, like, on a normal day, like you want to write music or a song? What thought process do you go through?
That's a difficult question. That's a difficult question because for me, music is part of my life. As in, like, I'm constantly thinking about music. Like, if we finish this conversation, I'll probably write another song based on something I may have heard or something I may have felt or something like that. And so I'm constantly writing music, not in the sense of writing it, but like a scavenger looking for the different parts that I can use in a song. I think the most formalized scenario would be when somebody asks me to come and write music with them or to write music for them. Then I have to have a routine that works. And for me, that is mostly just picking an instrument, guitar, piano, or just humming. And I can hum for like 6 hours straight. And when something feels natural, when something feels nice, I'll record it and then I'll play it back and I'll put it on loop. And that frees me up to, because when you're doing that initial idea, you're trying not to forget it, which uses up a lot of your brain. But now that it's playing back, you don't have to think about that. And so now it's layering. And then I'm humming other, counter melodies and, beatboxing and whatever comes to mind. And sometimes I'll just mumble words. And then, mumbling becomes, actual lines and stuff like that. And it goes on and on and on until it's an actual song. This is just one of many processes. For instance, a song I have that's called Am I Crazy? I just picked up the microphone. I was going to record another song, right? And then a melody came to mind. I was like, oh, let me try out this melody. And I hit record. And 5 minutes later, I had recorded the entire song with all the lyrics and everything, like straight. Like not premeditated. Like everything came out the way it did. First verse, chorus, second verse, chorus. I think I made a mistake in the second chorus, so I just repeated the first chorus by editing it. But I mean, that's when like the stars have aligned. Like the timing is right, the feeling is right, the words are right, the atmosphere is right, and like just like that, like can just pour out like that. And then there are also other songs like Dew, which everybody loves for some reason. took me like 4 years to write that song.
Wow.
And like it's the simplest song I've ever heard in my life. I came up with the chorus. I used to work at Canoe Magazine, 2015, 2017. And I would walk between the Fanais Junction and the office. Yeah. And every time I passed there, I would sing that chorus. I fell in love like do bit by bit, because it was raining the first time I wrote it. And that thing stuck with me for years. I couldn't write a verse for it. I went to South Africa, same thing. I would walk from my area in Rivera Park to my office. Every single time I would sing this thing, I would send voice notes to my friends. I was like, what do you think of it? What does this make you feel? And everybody was like, oh, it's a cool song. And that's like the least constructive thing anyone can tell you. But then I came back in 2018, I think May, and I was talking to my friend Aura, and she was like, oh, she needs a new song. And I was playing my voice notes, and I have like thousands of voice notes. And we hit that one. And she was like, oh, this is really cool. Can we write this as a duet? I was like, duets, really? I have never done a duet. And so then I was like, can you believe it? And that was it. Wrote first verse, wrote second verse. She never recorded her part, and I released it on Valentine's Day in 2018. But was it Valentine's Day? No, then it was 2019, sorry. Yeah, if it's Valentine's Day, it's 2019, because I came back in May 2018. So yeah, thereabout. And it's like, you can't really force it, you know. You can try and coax it into happening.
Right.
And I clearly have formulas, right, that I can use. Like when I write a first verse, I know I have a formula for getting a second verse and a bridge and stuff like that. But there's only so much you can do with the formula, right? And
most of it is organic.
Yeah, it's like once you write with the formula, you can tell, and you won't be happy with it. Like, no one will know. Everyone will be like, hey, it's a cool song, but I cringe when I hear like verses that I use formulas on.
Awesome. So when was the first time you fell in love?
First time I fell in love?
Yes.
Oh, I was like 5.
Yeah, 5.
I was like 5. I was like 5. Was I 5?
Significant enough to write about them?
Significant to write. This is. People assume I write about people. That's one thing.
No, but when was it? Okay, to consume you enough.
Right. I don't know. You know, like I'm the kind of person that likes composite experiences. Like I sometimes prioritize my memory of something over the thing itself. And sometimes, you know, certain experiences you may have, like especially very early on in life, they don't make sense to you until you have had other experiences. And so when I say that I was in love at 5, I'm not saying that when I was 5 I knew I was in love, right? Okay. It's more like when I think about certain events and certain people from that period in my life, it's like I can identify certain instances, or there's evidence that I was in love in some way, shape or form. I mean, or just obsessed, but but you get it, like. And so like sometimes when I write my music, people will be like, oh, who is this song about? And I'm like, to mention one person or even 2 people would be lying, even though they influence it a bit. It's as a result of every other experience I've had, whether opposite or same, that have shaped my understanding of that situation. And so when I write a song, you know, especially the bitter ones, people like those ones. The bitter ones, they're like, who broke your heart? I'm like, it's a lot of people and a lot of things that people did are put together, and how collectively they make me feel is how I'm expressing it in the song. And so that's how I think about some of these experiences and these concepts. That, yeah, things are happening now, but how I interpret it, how I feel about it, it's mostly beyond that moment, but like a composite of everything I've felt or learnt or experienced through life.
So if you were in love today, would you woo a woman with your music? Is that something you would do?
I am in love right now.
Okay.
And that's for her to decide. I don't really know if that's what worked, right?
Okay.
It's like she enjoys my music the most. She has like she remembers all my lyrics. It's crazy. Like even I don't remember all my lyrics. And it's I know that she loves it, and I play music for her a lot of times, and I've written certain songs, and I don't know if she's mad or not. The songs are not about her, but they're about love, so it's weird, but I could say it's part of it. It's part of it. It's part of what she likes about me, because music is a huge part of me. So to not like it would be very, very, very sad.
Okay. Did your parents take you along the conventional career path? Like they psych you about that, or you were given the freedom to choose? And if so, what led to the decisions to take up this path?
Right. So I'm a twin, right?
Oh, okay.
I think I
That's
should preface
interesting.
with
Yeah.
that. I'm a twin. My twin brother is a biochemist. Depends on what kind of eyes you have.
Okay.
But yeah, we look more like brothers than twins.
Okay.
But essentially, he's a biochemist. He lives in Japan. He loves Japan. He's been there for a while.
Okay.
And because I'm a twin, that is pretty much like the measuring stick. If you do something wrong, what was your twin doing? Right? At that same time. That's what it's like. Is it bad, or is this you bad? You get it? And so, like growing up, like my eldest brother, he's like a computer engineer, programming and stuff like that. So we were very into tech.
Okay.
Right? And my dad's stuff like music. We were all into music, and so music is part of all of our lives. My eldest brother is a keyboardist. My twin brother is a bass guitarist. My sister plays acoustic guitar. Okay. She sings as well.
Okay.
I play acoustic guitar, drums, and keys, just a tiny bit of keys. Okay. So the music aspects, no one was ever going to stop us from making music. Right? It's part of who we are. It's the identity of the family. One of my uncles is Kiki Jan from Osibisa. So we are not really, we don't have a problem with music.
Okay.
It's everything else. And when I was little, because of my older brother, I was very into technology. I was doing a lot of science stuff. So when I got to high school, it was like, okay, what are you going to choose? Because my twin brother was hell-bent on doing science. And I was like, I want to change. I want to try something else. And I did visual arts.
Okay.
And I excelled at it. Swept all the prizes at the speech and prize giving day.
What school was that?
St. Margaret Mary in Downson.
Okay.
And just to spite my brother, I also swept like core math and some other English. I had I got like 100 over 100.
Oh wow!
In the mock exam, yes.
In English.
Yes, and in core math as well.
Okay, core math. Yeah, that's doable.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so so I got the prize for that. I mean, I had to share it with some white girl who was on exchange, but yeah. So it sort of created the impression that I wasn't doing art to run away from doing something difficult, right? And I've always tried to do that. It's like I'm still very capable of doing all these other things. It's just this is what I really love.
That's what you really love.
And so when I did that, my parents were like, okay, so where are you going to go with this? Because we don't know.
It's a African question, right?
Exactly. Yeah. But also my parents were very patient with me.
Okay.
And I joke about this and I don't know how true it is. But it's like once you have a twin brother who is like doing the most traditional education route, you have like field day to do whatever you want, because it's like at least your twin brother is a biochemist with a PhD in molecular science and whatever, breeding mosquitoes. But so like I did computer graphics, because before even I finished high school, I was working doing like logos and stuff for people. So I did computer graphics with Seneca College remotely.
Okay.
And then I went to film school, NAFTI, where I did all sorts of things, film, Then I went on exchange in South Africa and Finland. I made some documentaries there. I came to teach at NAFTI, left NAFTI, went into publishing with Canoe Magazine and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's just, visual arts, media type space. And my entire career has been like that. And my dad sort of understands that coming from like the music, like commercial music setup of like a studio, label services and stuff like that. So yeah, it wasn't really a problem in that sense. Yeah.
What's been the worst experience you've had so far in your journey of music?
With music?
Yes.
Shy.
Or there are a lot of them.
yeah. I mean, there's so many.
Okay, the one that comes on top of your head.
I mean, the generic ones are, people book you and they don't pay you. There are people that will use your music without asking you, and then you have to chase them, and it's all sorts of things. And there are people that, you give your music to for free, but they won't do the paperwork, to make sure that it's legit and everything. But I think the most difficult experience is, let me do two.
Okay.
So one aspect is, not being able to create the music the way that you want, and people still liking it. It's the most heartbreaking thing ever.
Really?
Yeah, it's very heartbreaking because sometimes when the song ideas come to my head, they are very specific.
Okay.
Like very vivid. Like I know the intro, there's a cello that opens with a low note, like a low E. And then it just drones throughout, and then everything goes on, and then you hear these voices in the background, and there's all this layering. And I take my guitar and I do a short demo, and everybody's like, "Yo, release this!" I'm like, "No, guys, stop it!"
I'm sure I'm one of those guys.
Everybody's like, "Yeah, release it." Even when I used to record music on my phone, people would be like, "Release it." I'm like, "No, guys, this was recorded on the phone." Like, I don't want to wake up 20 years from now and cringe at something that could have possibly been like a masterpiece of some sort. So that's one aspect. That's the thing that's the most heartbreaking about the music that I make.
I didn't expect that, but
yeah. But one of the other bad experiences is I got signed. I'm not going to mention which label or where they came from. It was not Ghana.
Okay.
I got signed, and they gave me the impression that they understood the music, and they understood, or if they didn't understand, that they were going to work with me to figure out, how to sell the music. They just ended up being like a regular
record label.
Just do a few singles, do a few covers, and release that, and then we'll get you into the system, and then put you in some shiny suits with 15 girls in a car, and that was very disappointing. That was very disappointing. And it took like a lot of fighting to get out of that deal.
Wow.
But I finally got out of that deal.
So you had signed with them already?
Yeah, I had.
Wow.
I had. It was mostly like a deal memo, but the language of the contract was very binding.
Okay.
And so to get out of that would mean that we both had to agree that we were no longer taking that route. On paper. Yeah.
Interesting. So what genre will you put you? I generally describe your music as alternative, but
alternative is
once again,
such
you don't like tags.
Such a weird thing. And no offense to I don't want to say this, but I'll say it. It's almost like the LGBTQIA thing, right? Yeah. Because you bunch everybody who is not mainstream together.
Right.
But they all have like unique problems, right? You talk about lesbians and gays, they're talking about like equal love between, and then you're talking about people who have identity, right? You're talking about people that are what do you call it? How do you break it down?
Yeah, you're breaking it.
So I mean, there are people that intersex, right? Intersex is like physically they have both traits, so that's an identity thing, right?
I feel
exactly. So it's like putting all of us who are not making the mainstream type of music together. So alternative could be Lagbaja.
True.
Right. It could also be, what's his name? Blacko.
Yeah, Blacko.
If you think about it in the sense of what we were doing before he started doing drill music, you could have put him as alternative.
True.
You can put people like Lady Donley. You can put people like, so it's like, when you say
It's
alternative,
such a big category.
but also I used to think it was very insulting to say it's the alternative, but alternative to what?
Okay.
Right? It's like you're legitimizing mainstream as this is what ought to be, and then everything else, right? I really don't like the term. I don't mind it now because inner peace.
So what would you describe it as?
My music is whatever it is to you when you hear it. Because those who have access to like my music from before, like Instagram, for instance, they have heard like the same song played so many different ways. Like I have a song called Walk Away, which in its first iteration was a reggae song.
Okay.
Then became like some very classical composition on a piano, then became something else. Am I Crazy also has like 6 different versions that are all like different genres. And so the song is what it is when you meet it. It's like whatever I felt like, whatever was natural to me at the moment, the way I performed it, that's how it was. But that's not the only way that song will exist. And so it's difficult to put anything in any block. Yeah.
Are you happy?
Am I happy with everything? That's the question. With everything in life.
With everything.
Happiness is such a weird construct, right? I would say I'm at peace.
Okay.
Easier thing to understand than happiness, because then it means I'm not anxious about much. I'm not agitated by anything or threatened or fearful of anything.
Right.
So I'm at peace, mostly with the music process, because there was a point in time when I thought, you have to, like release music and do this and do that and do photo shoots and do all that. I have come to make peace with the fact that I don't have to. That everybody's journey is unique to themselves. And so in that vein, I'm not worried about that. In terms of music, my life, everything happens in its own stages. I'm not exactly happy about certain things, like having to do like a 9-to-5 in order to do the things that I love and afford all the crazy gear, because I'm a gearhead. But it's a necessity, because it's like you have to do this in order to get, and life is all about compromises.
True.
And
process.
it took me a while to figure out that there is no way you're going to get through life, standing, like concrete and saying, no, I'm not ever going to
bend
any single rule of, I think the journey for me has been finding what my core values are, and interpreting those core values in as many contexts as I can.
Okay.
So that, right, when I'm compromising, I am not compromising in a way that goes against those values. But that I'm compromising on the smaller things. Like for instance, somebody says, are you going to release music? I say, the music is not where I would want it to be. A few years ago, I would have been like, nah, never releasing this music. But now what I would do, like, and this happens all the time, people will ask and all I will do is I'll do a show. I'll do a show. I'll play the songs for you live. And when you come, you can record what you want. Or I'll put out videos from those performances, like the City interview.
Right.
Like there's a version of the music online. You can listen to it that way. And so that's a compromise. Okay. Right?
Which ideally before you wouldn't have done.
I wouldn't have done at all. Because it's like, I don't want any version of this song to exist in any way, shape or form outside of what I intend it to be. And so that's one idea of compromise. Sometimes too, especially in relationships recently, like, human beings. Like you will compromise on something like, maybe, for instance, I don't like going to the beach, right? Because I'm traumatized from Afro Nation 2019.
Okay.
But
Care to tell us a story?
someday, baby David Mekamasa.
Sure.
But maybe your partner loves the beach, right? So the compromise would be, okay, I will go to the beach. I will not run around the beach. I'm not going to pretend that I'm happy to be at the beach, but I will be at the beach with you.
Okay.
Because I know you love the beach and you would want me to be there with you. And so you go there and maybe you take a guitar and you sit in your little corner and you play the guitar and they are around and they know that you are there. And sometimes it's about just that, you know, knowing that you are there, that makes them happy. It's not that they want you to go and break all your rules, but just bend it a bit so that we can both have a little bit of what we want in life.
I think that point has been my biggest lesson also, like adulting, because I think if you're an idealist, you have this way the world should work in your head, but then there's a real world and you are like, okay, that's not how the world actually works. And so that finding that point where you decide to compromise to get ahead or to move along, to get to the point you do want to get to is a very vital lesson. What's the dream for your music, like for your craft? What's the dream?
The dream for my craft?
Yeah, what's the dream?
I'm gonna have a lot of dreams. Like every day I dream something. It's like I'm a sucker for pain. You know, I like to imagine things that are impossible and I try my best. And when I feel happily, knowing that I tried. I really, 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 really wanted to write a project with somebody that made like a significant impact on how people perceive music from Ghana.
Okay.
And I think to an extent that I did that with Adoma.
Okay.
With her Becoming Adoma EP.
Oh yeah, her recent.
Yeah, I wrote a couple of the songs on there.
Nice.
We did a whole writing camp and thing, and we wrote those songs. And I think.
Shout out to Adoma.
Shout out to Adoma. Yeah. And I think that like I can check that off my bucket list somehow. Okay. I mean, I can always bring it back to the bucket list, but I've checked that off. I've also wanted my music to be used in something that's not very like traditional.
Okay.
I've done ads in the past. I've done films in the past. I mean, maybe video games would have been.
That would
be dope.
That would be dope.
And yeah, I have. Maybe I shouldn't say.
Because the licensing on that too is pretty good, right?
The licensing on that is pretty good, but I mean, I just want.
And it lives forever. It's one of those things that apart from like on distribution platforms, like it's sort of. To be honest, I think that's one of the ways I've learned a lot of songs.
Okay.
Yes, because there's some songs that ideally, I mean, I've never known, but then I learned it unconsciously. Because like every time you're playing a game, it's playing, and then you're like, okay.
Because you don't have a choice.
Yeah, you don't have a choice. Exactly. So it's sort of ingrained. How do you call that thing?
Imprinted in your mind.
Imprints the music in someone's mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that. Yeah. So anyway, beyond the licensing, that's a.
But I mean, like, my music. I think my music is mostly storytelling, right? And I think anywhere that storytelling is needed, my music can go to. So if it's even, I was even recently talking about writing an audiobook that was a musical.
Okay.
And so that's one way to look at it. There's so many. I'm always trying to find new avenues, new ways to express. Yeah, that's really where I want to take my music. I'm not the very traditional award shows, concerts, kind of like big crowds scare me. And it's not scare in the sense of like I find it terrifying that there are so many people looking at me, but more like I can't believe, like I can't focus on any one person, right? I saw the whole crowd whilst I was performing. But after the night, like I don't remember any face. I don't remember any.
But you want to connect.
I want to connect. That's my thing. The most fulfillment I've ever found in a live performance has always been a crowd of maybe 5, 10, maximum like 25.
Okay.
The only exception to that was when I played Alliance Française in 2016. I was opening for Efia.
Okay.
For her Efia and Friends concert, and there were maybe 100 people there, and everyone was just screaming. None of these people had ever heard my music before. They were all just screaming. They were like, yo, and they were clapping along, and a lot of people came after the show and said hi. But then again, Alliance Française is also like a very cozy location, if you think about it. So that's what I want, you know, that fireside, by the fireside, you know, small circle, you know, everyone listening to you, everybody interacting, everybody, you know, and having conversation between songs and stuff like that. That's what I want. I want to connect with people. Otherwise, you're just, you know, projectile, you know, shooting your stuff at them and never getting anything back. I want it to be an exchange.
Okay.
That's how we grow.
What's your final two? What do you think the biggest threat to us about civilization?
The biggest threat to our civilization?
What in your personal opinion?
Us. But the biggest threat to our civilization, essentially, we have come, we are an invasive species, right? Every other, I don't think lions have colonized any forests and cleared trees and built habitats and stuff like that. You know, we've just taken over everything. Like, I have plants in my trunk right now that are begging for sun and water. And that's slavery in some. Yeah, that's. I mean, they were sitting in some forest somewhere, minding their business, and just dug them up and put them in a bucket. And that's our problem. You know, we don't know how to blend in. We want to take away all our fears and everything. So I'm afraid a lion will come and catch me. So I build a wall. You know, it's a huge, you know, thing to compensate for that fear. And then, you know, we create all these things, and now people are now envious of us because they don't have that protection, they don't have that security, they don't have, and so then we fight over territories. I mean, even the invention of farming, think about how many wars were started because somebody needed food and you had food and they didn't have access to it, you know. And so we are the problem. We are the problem. And until we decide, you know, intentionally that we are going to integrate with what exists, right, in the natural order of things, we are going to suffer. We're going to run out of food. We're going to run out of water, space, a lot of stuff. If you think about it, currently, we don't even occupy, human beings, we don't even occupy 20% of the landmass of the planet.
Interesting.
Right? And all of a sudden, that 20% that we occupy, we're already struggling with pollution, we're already struggling with all these things, and economic activity and all these things that are destroying the planet. We are seeing the side effects of that from the 20% or 30%. Like 100%. You understand? Yeah, like, if the rainforest, the ice caps, everything was gone, we'd be dead.
Yeah, facts.
You know, literally 80-20 rule, you know. 20% of the activity is creating 80% of the problem. And so until we slow down, you know, and recently I was reading an article about refrigerators, of all things. And they were talking about how refrigerators from, let's say, 60s, 70s, built like tanks. Like, you could still use them now. Okay. You could still use them now if you switched out the tanks and the gas that you use. Right. But refrigerators built today won't last you 5 years.
True.
They're not designed to last you 5 years.
True.
The materials are not designed to last that long. And so we're literally becoming worse and worse stewards of the planet, because we could make stuff to last, but we wouldn't make money. And we are more interested in money, right? And our generation, I mean, let's say our generation, but essentially, like, everybody's like that now. We're so focused on money, and it's such a trap, right? That's why trap music is so sad. It's like, it's literally in the name.
Shots fired.
But it's a trap, because if you focus on money, you miss all the opportunities, you miss all the beauty of life, right? Because if you wanted the money to buy a house, right, or to build a house, and all you focus on is the money, you may end up with $1 billion and you never built that house.
True.
Right? And maybe you needed only like 100,000 to build that house. You wasted all your life, all your energy fighting, destroying your body. Now you're an insomniac with, heart issues and stuff like that. You have billions of dollars, but did you need billions of dollars? You die tomorrow. It's like someone is going to inherit $1 billion and that's what's going to kill them, right? And so we focus so much on the money. Like, think about politicians. They just accrue money, like put it there, like pack lots of it, and it never does anything. Right. The money's just sitting there. It's like the most useless thing to do with money is to keep it, right? But our generation has been, pumped, with the get the money. And so everybody is looking for the money. And so now people are killing for the money. People are robbing innocent people for the money. People's pensions are stolen. You think about NAM1 and all the greed, and everybody wants so much money.
Absolutely.
That they like, obviously somebody tells you they're going to give you like 200% of your money. You should ask where, how are you doing this? But we are like, yeah, because it's money. And we are missing that. So I mean, I used to be in that trap. Like, I used to look for the job that paid the most and stuff like that. And I realized the job that pays the most is the one that makes you work 12 hours, weekends, even lunch is not guaranteed. It's like, yeah, we need to get this project done. And I'm like, no, I don't want that job. And I don't want that money, because if I don't have the money, but I have accommodation sorted, I have food sorted, I have, basic things, like I can afford to buy shirt to put on my back, right?
You're good.
I'm good. I'm good. And a lot of us miss those things. Like, there's so many cool jobs. People say, oh, there are no jobs in town. Go and work on a farm, right? If you go to the village, people wake up at 5 a.m., go onto their farm, by 12 they're back. Who doesn't want that job? Really? Yeah. Food is guaranteed. It's not far from your house. Lodging is guaranteed. You don't want that job?
Yeah. For the average middle class, that's not even an option, right? Because
you want to wear the Gucci shirts and then drive the Benz for what? For what? It makes no sense. And so, like, the generation before us were the ones that destroyed it for us.
Fact, I think so too.
Job security was the top of the thing. And now when I go and I tell my bosses, I don't care, fire me, they are so shocked. They're like, why? You don't want job security? Like, you are not afraid of losing your job? I'm like, no. And they can't understand it. And that's that generation. All they wanted was job security, and they passed it down to us. And I mean, a lot of us have rejected it, but that's what it has become. It's just become like we're just clinging to that security of money. Like, if I have all the money in the world, I shouldn't fear anything,
So it's us, really.
We are the problem, and we have convinced ourselves of a lot of problems. Like, there's this quote, I mean, I digress severally, but there's this quote by someone who said that computers came to solve problems that computers brought. The problem that a computer solves is only a problem that a computer can create. Because if you're thinking about computers, that's when you say you need more processing power, you need more this and more and that. But if you didn't have a computer, you wouldn't want to know the square root of 5,700. What are you going to use that information for? All that computation, space travel and all. If we didn't go to space, would we need to know, what the curvature of the sun is? What does that do to the growing of crops, and the feeding of people and the nurturing of children? And so we give ourselves pressure.
True.
That's basically it.
True.
And we create all the crises in the world. The biggest thing to ever happen to civilization, that wasn't our fault. Earthquakes.
True.
See how the earthquakes happened in Turkey. 2 weeks later, nobody's talking about it anymore. Right? Let financial crisis happen right now. We'll be talking about it for centuries.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, if anything, we are the problem, but we are also the solution, right?
Fact. Okay, awesome. What would you like to be remembered for, finally? It's a big one.
I don't think I want to be remembered like as an individual, right? I want to be remembered for my contributions. Like when people talk about chloroquine, they are not talking about the person that invented, the thing. They're not talking about, all the people that put their blood, sweat, and tears into getting bitten by mosquitoes and tested for several years and all the nights of research. I want something that I do to be remembered. Okay. Or some way that I made people feel. If you think about people like Michael Jackson, scandalous human being. But when you listen to his music, right, it makes you feel something. And that thing is so universal and so timeless. Like you, even if you hate him, you will listen to his music, right? And that's what I want to do. I want to do something with my art that transcends just me. That even if it was found out that I'm some serial killer, and that thing will still survive and it will still inspire people to be better people, and it will inspire people to love, and it will inspire people to, to just persevere and, just do better with themselves. And all my endeavors are geared towards that. All the things I do are like public facing, like people facing. Like I teach at the National Film and Television Institute, which is now the University of Media Arts and Communication, and there I teach film, post-production, how to use, how to manipulate people.
Manipulate people's minds.
Yeah, essentially. And I like working with young people who have ideas and have no idea how to execute them, because the best person to help you out of the ditch is the person that just came out of a ditch, and so I like to meet people who are coming from where I just left. Right. So I do that with film, with music as well. I mean, at Terra Alta we have these writing sessions that we do. We have these jam sessions. We talk to artists, we write together. People learn some of my workflow. I learn from other people's workflow. We just chat sometimes and share ideas. I like these kinds of interactions. Because you're always learning about something. Sometimes I just park my car and just pick an Uber and talk with the Uber driver, pick a taxi. I don't do Trotsky's anymore because the queues are mad and the traffic is horrible.
I'm telling you, bro.
You don't want to be in a tin box when the sun hits. But yeah, as much as I can, I think the pandemic took a lot of that away from me, and I felt like a stronger urge to connect with more people, and if anything, if I have some confidence, to share my confidence with people, and if people have fears, to offload some of their fears, and to just like spread positivity. I mean, at the risk of sounding like Rasta or hipster, just one love,
Oh no, Rastafari, I appreciate the time. It's been an amazing session. I hope you learned a thing or two, guys. As usual, hit us up on the socials. Make sure you check out his music. Check out Tsie. Go to Instagram and search Sincerely Tsie. Tsie.
Yeah.
Yes, and check out his music. Great musician by all standards. So do the needful, and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care.